thank you for joining with me. We are reading A Course in Miracles. This is day 123, I think. We're reading with Emily Bennington through the Course Companions group, and I'm checking what day this is. I apologize. And Robert Perry has presented the commentary. And yes, this is day 213, which I don't even know what I said it was, but we're going to read Cameo 25, the Course's version of the Lord's Prayer. If you will please close your eyes and join me in prayer. Dear God, if left to my own devices, my perception will be skewed. I surrender to you everything I think and feel. God, please take my past, plan my future, send your Spirit to redeem my mind that I might be set free. May I be your channel, God, and serve the world. May I become who you would have me be. Do what you would have me do. Excuse me. May I be who you would have me be. Do what you would have me do. Go where you would have me go, and say what you would have me say, and to whom, dear God. God, please enable me to set aside everything I think I know. Please allow me an open mind and a new experience, God. Please help me to be a conduit of light and love in this world, God. Thank you for my many, many blessings. Amen. Okay, so here we go. The Course's version of the Lord's Prayer. In the original version of her autobiography, Helen writes about her experience of taking down the prayer at the close of chapter 16 of the text. Until almost the very end of the text, I continued to anticipate a serious slips would come to light in my notes when I read them to Bill. He often reminded me that I was expecting a wild incoherence that I never found. But I seemed to be virtually unreassurable on the point. One rather striking episode took place that did succeed in impressing me for a while. Although its kindly impact did not remain to give me permanent comfort. I'm going to repeat that sentence since I hacked it. I apologize. So, one rather striking episode took place that did succeed in impressing me for a while, although its kindly impact did not remain to give me permanent comfort. Okay, one evening I started late and was writing with considerable resentment. As I wrote, I was aware of a sudden shift in style and tense, and I was sure that the incoherence I had feared for so long had finally happened. I hesitated to go on. "Just write as it occurs to you," said the silent voice very distinctly. "You will recognize it later." "But it's gone crazy," I protested. "I always knew it would sooner or later, and now it has." "Just write it down," said the voice soothingly. "You're doing very well, and you will recognize it later." I wrote on until the section was finished, and then called Bill in real agitation. "It's happened," I announced dramatically. "It's gone haywire. It doesn't make any sense at all." "I doubt it," said Bill, who had been through this many times before. "But as long as you're so upset about it, try to forget about it now, and we'll go over it first thing in the morning." The next morning, I arrived early, notebook in hand, and sure of disaster. I read the notes to Bill, becoming more and more anxious as I got nearer the part where I had been aware of the shift. As I started to read it, I paused an instant and then burst into tears. The voice had been right. I did recognize it. It was a version of the Lord's Prayer. It took me some time to regain my composure sufficiently to get to work. This is quoted in absence from Felicity 3:11 to 12. I'm sorry, my dog's laying on me, and he's heavy, and he keeps kind of pushing against me. All right, so in this brief story, everyone shows up in character. Helen is the reluctant channel, writing with considerable resentment and fearing, yet perhaps also hoping, that the dictation would suddenly dissolve into nonsense, despite the fact that such fears had never come true in the past. Bill is the calm rudder of reason, fully aware of that past and wisely suggesting that Helen set the whole matter aside until morning, when she can look at it more calmly and with him there to help. And Jesus called only the voice here is the sage teacher who sees the entire situation. He realizes Helen is afraid, yet he knows that his words contain a carefully constructed meaning, and that if she will just take them down, that meaning will reveal itself to her in due time. Here are the words exactly as originally taken down in the notes. Forgive our illusions, Father, and help us to accept our true relationship with you, in which there are no illusions and where none can ever enter. Our holiness is yours. What can there be in us that needs forgiveness when yours is perfect? The sleep of forgetfulness is only the unwillingness to remember your forgiveness and your love. Let us not wander into temptation, for the temptation of the Son of God is not your will. And let us receive only what you have given, and accept but this into the minds which you created, and which you love. Amen. I'm sorry, my dog's making noise. He's very needy tonight. I wish you could see it. It's hilarious. I'm sorry. Where did I? Oh, okay. I missed the bottom. In hindsight, it is easy to see that Helen was right. It is a coarse version of the Lord's Prayer. It is a prayer from us to our Father, one that contains clear allusions to the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our illusions. Let us not wander into temptation. And that also seems designed to correct elements in the original. In this version, we ask God to forgive not our trespasses or debts, but our illusions. And since illusions cannot be sins, this forgiveness is already given and already perfect. As a result, nothing in us really needs forgiveness. We merely need to remember the forgiveness that is already ours. There are several other subtle corrections or clarifications of the Lord's Prayer. There is only one God whose name is holy. Here we share in God's holiness. There it is implied that God leads us into temptation unless we ask him not to. A thought that has bewildered countless believers over the centuries. Here we are the ones who choose to wander into temptation, and we ask God to help us stay on the right path. There we pray that his will be done. Here we specify that his will is that we are not beset by temptation, for we are his Son. There we ask for the daily bread that will sustain our bodies. Here we ask only to receive the gift he has eternally given our minds. There we conclude with the acknowledgement of what is his alone, the kingdom and the power and the glory. Here we conclude with an affirmation that we are his creation and his love. All of this is interwoven with themes from the foregoing section, which is about accepting the holy instant as the antidote to the special relationship. Thus, forgive our illusions refers specifically to the illusions you have held against your brothers. Our fantasies of the roles they should play for us and our fantasies of vengeance when they do not. and let us receive only what you have given refers specifically to the holy instant in which we realize that the past is gone, and with its passing the drive for vengeance has been uprooted and has disappeared. By accepting the holy instant, we waken from the illusion of relationship that has kept us asleep, and thus remember the reality of our relationship with God. To design a prayer that weaves together implicit commentary on the Lord's Prayer with the theme of accepting the holy instant within a special relationship is clearly the opposite of a wild incoherence. As remarks to Helen indicate, and as she evidently realized, Jesus knew exactly what he was doing. Okay, and now I will read Robert Perry's commentary on this section. Day 23, Cameo 25, the Course's version of the Lord's Prayer. The situation described in this cameo is a great encapsulation of Helen's whole experience of taking down the Course. It is clear from things Helen said about the process that she was experiencing an alien thought system being given to her. In a taped interview, she said it wasn't my voice. It couldn't have been because it talked about a whole area with which I am entirely unfamiliar. This unfamiliar thought system arrived in the form of words that also came to her, not from her. She said that when a sentence started, she didn't know how it would end. In that same interview, she said, "Ordinarily, I think. But if you're going to say a sentence, you know what it's going to be. You sort of get the gestalt immediately, but I didn't." So, sentence after sentence is starting with her having no idea where it was going. Yet, as sentence after sentence ended, coherent messages and ultimately an entire coherent thought system emerged. She didn't see another person with her, but you nonetheless get the impression she was not alone. There seemed to be an independent intelligence with her, feeding her its own well-crafted messages. This is such a mind-blowing idea that she would understandably fear that maybe she was deluding herself about it. Maybe the whole illusion of there being an intelligent source behind it all would finally disintegrate, revealing that no one was there after all. Yet, of course, that never happened. I just want to pause there before finishing Robert Perry's commentary, but, you know, having been in the Big Blue Book, the other one, AA, beginning in 2001, my gosh, if that book, to me, I mean, it was so easy for me to believe that Jesus dictated this to Helen because of my experience with Alcoholics Anonymous, because that book is so obviously, to me, written by God. You know, and they never claimed that. I just think God, they were just, obviously they were just channels through which it was written. But that book made that so clear to me, so that it was so easy for me to believe that here. Anyhow, I just wanted to add that. So, what this brings up for me is that this is a real phenomenon, one that transcends Helen. This is what real guidance is. It's easy to think of guidance as just being a case of our own intuition, reaching outside the spotlight of our normal awareness and laying hold of something we could feel in the grass, so to speak, even if we could not see it. That's certainly how I usually experience my own guidance, and that definitely fits a lot of guidance I have seen. I remember someone sending me a guidance he wanted to publish, but with each new question, the guidance lurched sideways, jumping to a new topic, which then prompted another bewildered question followed by another sideways lurch. It looked more like free association than genuine guidance. But again and again I have seen instances that were more like Helen's experience, sometimes with my own guidance, perhaps more often with the guidance of others. Something comes that was not at all what you expected, but when it is finished, you see the wisdom, even the genius of it. And that's exactly what I meant with the big book. And that came into my life years before A Course in Miracles did. 2003 through Marianne Williamson, 2007. I started the actual book late 2006, so I definitely understand this or can relate to it. You get the unmistakable sense that there was an independent intelligence communicating to you its own highly intelligent message. The example that came to my mind this morning was guidance that Nicola received many years ago. The circle was in desperate financial straits, not for the first or last time, and we all sat down to seek guidance together. Nicola began by seeing a few black sticks on deep snow. This seemed meaningless, like the random images one might see while falling asleep, but then she saw an image from the famous Christmas carol Good King Wenceslas, in which the king and his page were walking through snow together. She later realized that those initial sticks on the snow were from this same carol, which opens up with an image of a poor man gathering firewood deep in the snow. To appreciate the guidance that followed, we need to understand the story told by the carol. In it, the good king sees a poor man gathering sticks for his fire at Christmas time. So he and his page march a long way off to the man's house in the dark, bringing him wood, wine, and food. The page starts complaining about the deep snow and biting wind, but the king assures him that if he will just step carefully into his footsteps, he will feel less cold. And sure enough, the page finds that heat was in the very sod where the king had stepped. What Nicola's guidance then did was take this familiar story and brilliantly reinterpret it. Jesus is the king who possesses both treasures and warm-heartedness for the poor. We at the circle may think we are poor, trying to scrap together a few sticks for our fire, which is exactly how we were feeling at that time. But her guidance explained in true Course fashion that the poor are the spiritually poor, so we, with our stores of overflowing with the spiritual riches of the Course, are not the poor. Rather, we are the page. Our job is to follow the king in bringing his riches to all the spiritually poor people who so desperately need them. We therefore need to stop moaning about the snow and the wind. If we will just carefully trod in the king's footprints, they will warm us up, and we will remember the precious companion we are with and the priceless nature of the mission we are on. It was incredible guidance, and I really encourage you to read Nicola's full article about it. It's buried in the Circle's website, but it's a true gem. I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. I read it again this morning and was blown away by it. Its message is timeless. It's as applicable now as it was then. Indeed, it applies to anyone who is struggling to carry out a spiritual mission. My point now though is this guidance had every appearance of being an intelligently crafted message, which started with what seemed like a meaningless image, transitioned into the story of a familiar Christmas carol, and ended in a brilliant reinterpretation of that story, which profoundly spoke to the Circle's current situation and ongoing struggle. I think we can say with confidence that it was not just Nicola's intuition reaching out and laying hold of some idea she hadn't been aware of. there was an intelligence on the other end of that phone line. And so I'll show you where Nicole is, and I hope I'm pronouncing her name properly. So this is Good King Winchillis by Nicola Harvey. And if you want to find it, this is the website. I'm sorry. Okay. circleofa.org. I think if you Google A Better Way by Nicola Harvey, you'll find it. So just want to see how long it is, but this is where you can find it. Okay, I'm going to leave it up to read it later, and then if I can, I don't think I can. I wanted to play the interview. I really want to go to bed, but I know this is better for me to do this right now. So, I guess they sell it. A rare interview. Well, I think it's on YouTube, so I'm going to Google it. So just bear with me. I'm going to pause you. So I couldn't find the Helen Schuckman interview. It crossed my path recently. Somebody posted something on Facebook. So I don't know where it is, but you can buy it. But if I find it, I will post it. It's a wonderful interview. Anyhow, thank you for joining with me. I love you. Have a beautiful day.